Welcome to Proud Product Peeps. Our guest today is Karen Chastain, the VP of Global Partnerships at Enable. Karen is passionate about two things in her career: partners and supporting women in the tech community. She lives in sunny Southern California with her family and loves to travel, which often includes snow skiing adventures.
Welcome to Proud Product Peeps. Today, I have the honor of welcoming Karen Chastain, who I worked with for many years. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for asking.
It's great seeing you. Before we get into the meat of it, I wanted to let the audience know that you are a major bandwagon fan for the 49ers and Dodgers. And Ohtani just, went for 51-51 yesterday. So what do you think of that? Were you watching it?
I was not watching it, but I do get the alerts on my phone because I am such a huge fan. So I got the alert right when it happened, and then I texted my son right away. So we were very excited. He had 3 home runs yesterday, so it was amazing. And
it was
no
pretty
bandwagon
impressive.
fan here. No bandwagon.
Right, the 49ers is who you're a bandwagon fan of.
No. Unfortunately, I've had to deal with several Super Bowls where they have lost. So
yes. You could be a Panthers fan, and it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, at least with the Panthers, you just know it's not going anywhere from the beginning of the season. With the 49ers, they just drag us on the whole time with hope.
Yes. I think I'd rather have the latter, the hope part. You're also an avid skier. I picked up skiing again in 2020. My whole family started skiing or snowboarding. I went, I think, 30-ish years between skiing, and we started skiing a little bit. And I would commiserate with you because you've been skiing for a while. But I think you took a trip last year where you got snowed in, the power went out, and I think it's a fun, interesting story.
Yeah.
I was going to say funny, but I know that wasn't entirely funny.
It is kind of funny. But yeah, I'm a huge skier. And we've had our kids on skis since they could be on skis, so 3 years old. And it's a great family vacation, expensive but fun. But yeah, last year we were skiing in Mammoth and we got snowed in, and we lost power for 12 hours in our condo with 3 families. So it was tight already, but being inside for 12 hours with no power was even more tight. So it was, lots of candles and card games. And my friend thought that it would be a really good idea. The only thing we had was a gas fireplace. So she thought it would be a really good idea to reheat our previous night's leftovers for dinner in front of the fire. And needless to say, that did not go very well. So one of the kids was really wanting pizza, and one of the dads said, if you could figure out how to get pizza here while, the whole city is without power, I will pay for it. And so, of course, kids are very resourceful, and he figured out how to get pizza, and that's what we ended up eating for dinner. The leftovers were tossed as soon as possible.
Because there's no refrigeration, or you didn't know when it was going to come back.
No refrigeration, and it was just gross. No one wants cold fajitas, so...
Pizza and skiing, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Do you use an app like Slopes or one of those?
In fact, you're the one who turned me on to Slopes. So my whole family uses Slopes, and we compare and contrast how fast we're going down the mountain.
Do you remember how fast your fastest has been?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I do know that I'm not the fastest anymore in my family. So definitely I would say my daughter is probably the fastest.
If you were going to say a number, I was going to say 0.1 miles an hour faster than that is my fastest. So I don't remember either.
I don't remember, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, and people go, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I'm not saying anything.
Is that true for the entire podcast, or just that?
No. I only say things that I'm confident about.
I got it. Yes, that is true about you. The big reason that I wanted to have you on as one of the first guests is it was unbelievably impressive that you kind of changed careers in some ways a few years ago. You were, managing partners for a number of years, and then I convinced you, or you convinced me that we should set up a product operations team, and now you're back into the partner world. But I'm just curious to kind of talk in this forum what you thought of that journey and what was kind of going through your head initially of maybe the concerns and skepticism of moving into a new role, and then kind of what you experienced throughout the role.
Yeah, definitely. So I had the pleasure of being in the product team already because at the time I was managing our technology partnerships, and that fell under the product team. So I had a lot of experience in working within the product team already. And we had acquired 5 companies in under 2 years, which is a massive undertaking. I think we determined that the product team grew 300% in that time. And so you had a need for some organization and, helping with processes and stuff. And I was kind of getting stale in what I was doing, and I wanted to try something new. So taking, some of the things that I love to do, which is, organizing things, creating new processes, coming up with solutions to problems. I think it was both of us just talking over time, and you were my manager. And so, being the good manager that you were and trying to identify other areas that I can, work in and grow in, we decided to create this new role for product operations. And I really loved it because it opened up an opportunity for me to work in a different way than I had before, which is it was much more internal. So I rarely worked with anyone external. So that was a huge change for me. But I had an opportunity to really see something change in an amount of time. I was in that role for 2 years. And I think it was the perfect time for that role because the point of it was to get these companies that we acquired, to get these product teams working together, using the same tools, using the same processes, building and releasing products in the same way. And so that was, quite a challenge. And getting everybody to want to stay at the company and being happy and feeling like they're part of a team. So all of that, was a lot of what I enjoy doing. So it was a great role at the time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, just bringing back some memories of a lot of the intangible things that we needed to do. And you were quite instrumental in, we realized that, hey, nobody knows each other. It's during COVID, for instance. We can't get together in person. And so you were quite instrumental in putting together not only different events, but making sure that people were introducing themselves, doing more team calls. You want to talk a little bit about maybe either the escape room or some of the About Me things that we that you put on?
I'm laughing because it does bring back a lot of memories. I think I got I think I got this job. We created this role, maybe in 2021 or so. And there were probably about 80 people on the team. And so it was really a challenge to try and get people to feel like they are getting to know each other or their voices were heard. And so we did several different things. We tried to do fun things like escape rooms. And that was actually really fun. We broke up into groups of 6 and we hired a company to facilitate it. That was really fun. We also did little things like in every team meeting, we had 5 people talk about themselves outside of the company. What are their interests and what do they like to do? We also did Women of Adept. So trying to get women within the team together. So yeah, there was a ton of virtual stuff going on without trying to schedule additional meetings, but also trying to get people to feel like they were part of a team. There was a lot of trials and errors and trials and successes, but yeah, it was fun.
Do you remember? So, does this sound familiar? I'd call you up, ring, ring. You'd answer, and I go, "I have an idea," and you
Yes.
go, "Uh oh."
All the time. I miss that because I never knew what was going to come out of your mouth.
But I mean, a lot of it was, and I know we want to talk about strength finders, and I think that this might actually be a good connection in that you definitely have everybody has amazing skills. You had amazing skills that we identified through strength finders, harmony, arranger, relator. And we said, how do we use those skills to the, best advantage to our team that we're going through these struggles of coordination, of having the right data, of having everybody on the same page and all of those things. And I think at that time, it was critical to say, hey, you are exceptional at these. How do we use those and what do we do as a result of it? Versus a lot of the times you're like, oh, I have this problem. Let's go find people. I think it's also important to say, hey, we have people with these skills. How do we best use them? And
Yeah.
that was part of our conversations at the time, right? Like, hey, you are exceptional at this. What do we do that we actually see that we have issues with, that you can help with?
Hmm.
And you want to talk a little bit about, I guess, those three things: the, harmony, arranger, relator. By the way, these are strength finder themes. I think these are your top three as a result of the, tests that you did and all that. But you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, and don't forget discipline, which is my number one because I am very disciplined. But yeah, I think that in strength finders we could talk a little bit about that too, and how we did it for your team, because it was a huge exercise that I feel like was very beneficial. But in terms of what I am, and what I found out of that is I am harmony, bringing people together. A relator, I always like to put myself in other people's situations and am empathetic to other people's situations. And I like to bring people together. And so using those strengths in my role as the VP of product operations, it was a perfect way for me to use those strengths and to be able to bring these groups of 5 different companies, 80 people together, and to work to find out ways to be more efficient and to be happier and to work alongside each other in more efficient ways. So
You mentioned what we did for the team. So the individual strengths are important, but I think, I've been using it for like 15 years. It would always kind of fall off when, like, here's what your strengths are, here's what my strengths are. How do you use that collectively? So I think I was just looking at the spreadsheet that we did, and there's like 18 to 20 people that we had go
yeah.
through the strength finders. And what we decided to do, you decided to plot it so that you would identify the people that were, strategic versus people that were doers. And we would have these conversations to help make sure that everybody understood each other, because that
Mhm.
was the thing that we were seeing, is that people would get frustrated with each other. And we'd realize through these strength finders, you would plot them and you would say, hey, look, these are two totally different types of people. This is probably, they don't know each other. They don't know that about them. How do we do this more as a team? Do you want to talk a little bit about how we rolled it out, what that
Yeah.
plotting and that exercise looked like?
Yeah, we had the 18 people that we had do it was the product leadership team. So the team that we had assembled as the leaders within your organization, and everybody did the exercise. I think first and foremost is a great individual exercise to learn more about yourself, how you work, what your strengths are. But then when the best way to see that for 18 different people was to plot it, and they have strengths in 4 different categories, not to go into too much detail, but the categories, there's like a strategic category, a relator category, etc. And to plot everybody's top 5 strengths on this graph, and to be able to see, oh my gosh, this person is so analytical, that's all they're focused on, and I'm more around thinking about the strategy, and I'm more of a creative person. And so you could see why you may think about things differently and why you might go about things differently than other people. So we did that, and then we did some education and exercises around it to let everybody kind of know, like, oh, this one, this is why people act this way and this is why people act that way. I thought it was interesting also when we did the exercise that you and I are very opposite. So you're very strategic, you're very creative, I'm very disciplined, analytical, execution. And so I think that's why we worked so well together, because you would call me with, hey, I've got this idea, and then I would say, okay, well, let's think through this and how are we going to execute it. So it was a really great exercise, and I've actually used that with my team at my company now. So we did.
Nice. And one of the things that, as you're describing that, made me recall one of the offshoots that you decided to do, that you came up with, was the mentor-mentee program, where you could actually join both sides. And we decided to roll that out because we were you identified through the strength finders some, differences, and that people had some great skills. And, I don't know if you remember us, doing that, but
Yeah.
maybe talk a little bit about what you did to roll out the mentor-mentee program. I think that was probably, in retrospect, probably one of the most important things, because it got people to talk to each other, but it also got people to help each other. And it
Yeah.
was so interesting because most people were both. They wanted to be a mentor and talk about explicit topics and help with topics. And they also wanted to be mentee because they know they wanted to get assistance. But maybe talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. I think, one of the areas of my job that I had was to try and think of ways that we could bring people together. And so the company hadn't done a formal mentor program at the time, which a lot of companies don't have the capacity and the bandwidth to do. And so I decided to create a mentor and mentee program within the product team specifically. We tried to make it as simple as possible, fill out a form, answer some basic questions. And I had, got a team of a few people to help me, figure out who should be matched up with who. And the idea was, one, to bring our team together and to give people an opportunity to learn from each other, to take some leadership role if they want to be a mentor, and the opportunity to find out, based on some strengths and, where people might want to grow their career based on questions they asked, how do we match people up and allow them to share with each other based on, where they come from, their experiences, their expertise, their strengths, etc.
Yeah, no one size fits all with any of these programs or approaches. And I think that you did a great job at identifying some of the areas of opportunity. That's another good segue into, the point of this podcast is, proud product peeps. And while you're partner or product and back into
Mm-hmm.
partner, just curious, what would you identify as your, proudest accomplishment, achievement, whether it's very small or broader? What would you categorize as, the thing you're most proud of?
I think you could probably hear this in just how we're talking today, but I am most proud of my network and my relationship building skills that I've built over the years. The network is huge. So, quick story. When I first started at Epicor, I managed the Microsoft Alliance. I had an opportunity to be a part of this partner engagement board, which was a group of individuals just like myself. We met 4 times a year to help Microsoft build out, partner events and partner programs and such. And just learning the value of meeting people outside of your company, and even if they were competitors of ours. So the company that I was working for, there were competitors within this group, but just the value of making these relationships and keeping them. It always comes around. Another example is, within Microsoft, I worked with them for, probably 15, 18 years between my two companies. And they always are changing jobs within Microsoft. It's encouraged. You have a new partner manager every year, and it could be frustrating on the other side of the business because you're constantly having to meet new people and, educate them about your company and your goals and all that. But at the end of the day, I started to see that the people that I had built relationships with had other roles within Microsoft or had other roles with other companies. And now, 20 years into my career, my network is very vast, and I, never burn bridges because all of these people are there to help out with each other. When I changed roles a year ago, when I decided to go into the job market, I put it out on LinkedIn. I'm going out in the job market, and the amount of people that reached out to help me in my network was really overwhelming and made me very proud of the network that I had built over the years. So that's my proudest.
And I think, not to triple down on the Strength Finders thing, but as a relator, the reciprocation, I think, is the key thing that you were just saying. It's not just when you need help, but also being there for others and having that vast network is really important. So, yeah, and I think that the number of people that you've been able to meet from a variety of different companies as a partner manager is pretty significant, because you're, running SIs, and then technology partners, and a variety of other types of partners, and then coming into product, and all that was super interesting. From the building of the network, I know that you're also a part of the Women in Technology, and we've talked a lot about that. You mentioned that we had a Women of Adept, which is a design, engineering, product team. That's what Adept stands for. You want to talk a little bit about the importance of women in technology, and what you've done specifically from helping to build up women's careers and be a part of that.
Yes, I am very passionate about this, and I have had the opportunity to help and participate, give back, use throughout my career. The WIT Network is a nonprofit organization that I volunteer for, and I've been a part of since its inception. And I feel like this is a great way for women to build out their careers. There's a ton of resources, so I've definitely contributed to that community, but also within my own companies, I've done my best to foster women helping each other. So at Episerver, I helped find women of Epi, women of Adept we talked about, and just really trying to make sure that there's a community out there for women who want to learn, talk, be a part of something, but also another way to network with each other, which is also, very important. So yeah, it's a great community. Happy to
I think it was perfect timing as well for you being a part of product, because what we saw was whenever we'd have an open role and we were taking resumes, like for product roles, it was like 2 out of 100 would be women.
Yeah.
And we would try to somewhat analyze or psychoanalyze, like, why is that? And I think you and Christine Bongard came up with a good view, I think at the time, which was, men seem to have confidence for something that they haven't done and they're willing to apply.
Yes.
Women, and correct me if I'm wrong, if this is slightly different than how you remember it, but women feel that they needed to have that achievement before you could apply for the role. And there's other factors, but we tried to really encourage the fact of promoting women into the role. Do you recall it the same way?
Yes, and there's actually studies that prove this, that men are more confident and they'll take more risks than women. And women are more reserved, and like you said, they feel like they need to have the experience or expertise before they can jump into something. And so I think a couple of things that we did in this role is, one, we tried to promote from within and from within other parts of the company. So I hired an engineering operations manager from, I believe, customer success to come over and help. And so, that is something that you have to be a little bit more active in doing, and you have to put some intention around it to try and help promote women and get more women to participate.
In a normal Justin conversation, I'd get snarky and start mentioning politics and different things, but we'll stay away from that. I think it's critically important that you need different views, you need different ways of looking at things. You need people with different skills and strengths and all of that to have this complementary team in order to drive to success. And I think that you did an exceptional job with that and looking at it from all the angles when we were there. This moves into the questions that I want to ask, that I ask everybody. So my last 4 questions.
All right.
And the first one is aisle or window on an airplane?
Aisle, 100% aisle. I feel claustrophobic if I'm at the window.
Yes, I agree. Even on long haul flights, I can't sleep. So aisle for me.
Yeah,
Don't want to have to bother somebody to ask them to get up.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, the only benefit of the window is maybe if you're going to sleep, you have something, but I aisle all the way. It's worth it to not be able to be comfortable. So.
All right. Second question: when you're preparing, when you have a red eye, how do you prepare? Do you try to get on the time zone in advance, or do you try to just sleep like normal and get as much sleep leading up to it?
always time zone in advance. So I typically won't do a red eye domestically because that's just torture. But when I'm flying over to Europe, I always pick a later flight and try to stay awake as much as possible. So that when I get there, I'm exhausted and I'm ready to go to bed. That's
And then we go out to dinner with a big group and have lots of wine.
Exactly.
Yes. Do you remember that time I offended one of our colleagues where I poured in Diet Coke into the red wine in London?
I do recall Coke being in the red wine glass.
It was the most scrumptious thing. And we were in Switzerland early this year, and that's actually a drink. They have Coke and red wine. That person who lived in Napa, he was so offended, he moved to a different table. But that's a different story.
I think that Tom Hanks actually did Coke and champagne or something, and it was a big thing going around. So you might want to try that next.
Champagne hurts my belly. We would do those wine events, and I would have them send me just cheese, and then I would pour 7-Up or Sprite to make it look like it was champagne.
Smart.
All right. Favorite book and or TV show in the last year?
Favorite book or TV show? Well, I wish I had more time to read books. I think the last book I read was on vacation. It probably wasn't relevant, but TV show, we just finished watching Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal. That was very good. It was...
That's on Apple TV, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Nice. This is really, I'm doing this podcast just to get personal recommendations.
If you could send them to me, I'd really appreciate it.
There's been some good ones that I've heard through recording these. I'll definitely send you, and I'll post, because definitely putting all this together. Okay, last question is Oxford comma or no Oxford comma?
Oxford comma or no Oxford comma? I don't even know what that means.
So do you put the comma before the and?
Oh.
Or no comma before the and?
I put no comma, but it always corrects me. So then now I do.
Yes. I'm in the relative minority on this, where I was very much against Oxford comma, because I feel like that's what we learned in school. Although
I didn't even know it was called Oxford comma, so I guess I'm just really missing it there.
I guess that's the issue of being older than me. You knew it was going to come up at some point.
Yes, every time, but only by months. Everyone, only by a couple of months.
I'll have exactly. Yeah, put that. I wasn't going to put that in there. Just let everybody wonder.
To put that in there. I have
I'll have McKenna send you some more details on the Oxford comma, because she and I had some heated conversations about that, and she's the one who wanted me to ask everybody about Oxford comma.
That's funny.
Yes.
I'll be sure.
Well, Karen, I really appreciate it,
and make sure I use the comma the way I want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I really appreciate you joining. It was great catching up with you. It's been too long.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great. I know. Can we maybe catch up without the podcast next time? But I really enjoyed doing the podcast. It was fun. So thanks for having me.
Deal. No podcast catch up. All right. Thanks, Karen.
All right. Thank you.